Some people say the Illuminati don't exist. Well, I mean, this is an official document from the Round Maquis Lodge, and leaves no doubt that the Illuminati not only exist, but they practice what is known as the primitive rite of Memphis and Mizraim, which is the Egyptian rite. This rite brings them above the 33 degrees, because the Memphis and Mizraim goes until the 99 degrees. And it's basically the peculiarity of this rite that for me made it a difficulty to stay in the Illuminati, because this rite, on the contrary of the others that, okay, are corrupted politically, they have a political, but this one is completely diabolic in its own internal belief system, and leads many of its members to become involved in Satanism. In fact, for example, heads of the Memphis and Mizraim in Italy, like Roberto Negrini, is involved in a satanic anti-Christian Ordo Tempio Orientis Fraternitas Hermetica Luciferiana, or there is many others like him in America that have, like Michael Bertiob, been involved in Satanism, and also close to Anton LaVey, I found a lot of other characters here in Europe that practice the Memphis and Mizraim. Here in Sweden,
isn't this
for
the
example,
the Bush family also involved in the Illuminati and Satanism?
Sure, sure. Each one is involved with their own orders, their own lodges, their own degree systems. The Skull and Bones have their own operational way of working, their own legends, the Knights of Euluga, a specific kind of initiation where you have the devil, Don Quixote, and the Pope. That should already tell you who are really the figures here that are in charge of the real power, because the Pope is sitting on the center, and even if Georgie Bush likes to dress up as Popey when he's down at the Skull and Bones, he's not the Pope. So, and he's not the devil.
Okay, but is the Pope the devil?
No, this is these are different characters that actually are enacted during the initiation of the Skull and Bones.
Right, and also at Bohemian Grove as well.
Bohemian Grove is a different kind of initiation. They like to dress up in even more fancy clothes, usually Republicans, a lot of whores. A lot of prostitution goes on during the nights of Bohemian Grove.
A fake sacrifice ceremony or a real sacrifice?
Real sacrifice is at times when you have the most secretive operations that are aimed for, in some way, maintaining the real occult path of destruction, which is of worshipping an owl, of St. John of Nepos, this old character from Bohemia. And why Bohemia is so important? Well, Bohemia, because then you have also from Bohemia, you have Jacob Boehme, who was himself one of the most illustrious Rosicrucians of all time.
Right, but the point of it is worldly success, is it not?
Worldly success?
I mean, in terms of Bohemian Grove, what is their purpose?
The point for all these clubs is different. And it's created by the people who actually have created them, and then the people on top who manipulate them for their own purpose. Whatever is the purpose. For example, is to blackmail people, their practices might be very twisted. If it is to create a fraternal bond of death, like the Order of Death in the Skull and Bones, then a human sacrifice is required to melt that bond together, so those people feel connected by a secret that is impossible to reveal.
And who becomes sacrificed in this situation? Is it a child?
Now, what happens in the Illuminati by their own instructions is an ancient practice that was also done by the rabbis, in the most orthodox rabbis in since ancient times in Israel. And this is to create a fetus and sacrifices amongst the members of the congregation and eat this fetus.
Really?
So this is really what also Crowley described in the higher degrees of his Ordo Templi Orientis, and what is practiced, as I said, comes from an old also Jewish practice, but where did they take this kind of practice? These practices are born from ancient times, from their captivity in Babylonia to their permanence in Egypt. Egypt is the example of what the Illuminati are. Now I will show you also later a picture of how the lodge is here in Oslo.
We went there.
You went?
Yes.
Okay, but inside. I have a picture of the temple
okay,
inside.
very good. Yes, we were
So,
not allowed inside.
What I can tell you about the temple inside is they are called a Christian Masonic order. Okay, there are only Christians in. Many Freemasons around the world are actually horrified by the fact that here in Scandinavian Freemasonry can be so racistic that can't include the Jews, the Hindu, the Muslims because of their own Christian order of Knights Templars, because that's what they claim to be. You saw the cross in the symbol this when you went to the headquarters with the lion and,
yes.
And a red cross and that.
Uh-huh. But you're saying this is so this
inside,
is an emphasis.
The emphasis outside is on Christianity, but if you go inside that temple, on top you will notice this symbol.
Sure.
That is nothing of Christian origin. You will notice that the temple inside, what is the Swedish rite, one of the most esoteric and most occult rites of Freemasonry, which is practiced here in Norway, is practiced in the whole of Scandinavia. So that means Norway, Sweden, Denmark, also practiced in part of Germany, practiced in Iceland, and also in parts of Finland. This specific rite, the Swedish rite, horrified me by their hypocrisy, because on one side they portray themselves as good Christians to the community, on the other side they are practicing pagan beliefs, which are completely incompatible with the belief in one God. That's why Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, came, because the Christians were already worshipping gods. They left the true path of Jesus already 7 centuries after Jesus came. The Christians were already worshipping other things, including them with Christianity, having a wrong perception of Christianity. The same with the Jews. They started to worship something different when Moses went just up the mountain. Why? Because it's a tendency in humankind to have the worship for these entities that can give you terrestrial power. We were talking about Anunnaki, we were talking about Nephilim, but there is these entities come from other dimensions, other places in this universe. They can cross over into this dimension if we evoke them, if we call them, and also the weak, the ill, the sick of mind, as described by Eliphas Levi in the book of Transcendental Magic. They can become easily possessed by these demons and become their zombies in a way. That's why also we have the zombie character, which is created in voodoo. They give him a very strong poison that completely burns the brain of the character and makes him possessed by this entity.
Well, this is also mind control, is it not?
It's mind control. But that's why you will find that most of the people in the mind control sectors of the intelligence units, the people who are taking control of the PSYOPs operations, they are occultists. Because occultism and black magic is the most ancient form of military tool known to mankind from the ancient times.
So this is, yes, to manipulate.
And also this is pharaonic. I'm against, since I, in June 2006, participated first to a meeting in Monte Carlo on the 1st of June. Then I went to San Cerbone on the 2nd and 3rd of June. I was in San Cerbone, a monastery near Lucca. And then after that, I left and went to Livorno, and at the Academy of the Military Academy of Livorno, I had a very illuminating meeting with Giorgio Ugo Ballestrieri at the Military Academy, because he's a military, he's part of the naval of the military. I was with him for a whole day. After a long time that we knew each other, I really understood what these people were up to. It was illuminating for me to understand that they were totally taking advantage of me, and at this time they wanted me to infiltrate the organization of my wife. My wife is part of a Muslim organization that was co-founded by his father, and they know that this organization is a very big organization, very powerful. It counts millions of adepts, and for that reason they wanted me, and also it's a moderate Muslim school, the connection for them was too strong and too tempting. They wanted to use me in order to infiltrate this Muslim organization that is especially powerful in Turkey, and they are very interested in Turkey for various reasons. For that, George Hugo Balestieri has been with another guy called Kan Soyak, which is a Turkish Freemason,
Well,
very big
what's
in
the
New York.
purpose? Why is Turkey of such interest?
Very important for the control of the whole Caucasus region, for all the ex-Soviet republics, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, all this side of things is actually now pretty much under the control of Turkey, because Turkey was able, after the fall of the Soviet Union, to build schools, to build a link with these republics, that some of them have also oil, and for that reason it's very important that you have the control of a very rich area, and very tactical, very important for the Americans, for the New World Order to be in control. For that reason, in 2000, it was, I think, April 2000, and I don't know if it was 2005, 2006, when they came together with a special group of Illuminati meeting in Ankara, in Turkey, under the Rotary Club. So this meeting is recorded, you can go and check it out. With Commandante Giorgio Ugo Balestieri did an invocation to the one God and whatever. He was covering up everything with a nice veil of, we are doing it for peace between religions, but in reality what? The guy is selling weapons, the guy is making money, the guy is interested in northern Iraq, the guy is interested in, because also there is northern Iraq, you have Turkey there. You have a lot of interest, and Giorgio Ugo Balestieri has been personally involved in dealing with northern Iraq and making business in northern Iraq with
Okay, but the Vatican must also be interested in oil if they're interested in weapons.
Oil is fundamental. It's oil, weapons, and that's it. And then you have the banks. So oil and weapons are fundamental. I didn't mention the oil until now because I thought that was
so obvious, right?
Obvious. But the whole fact that they went to Iraq is just to take them their oil, and in Afghanistan to have control over.
Okay, but what about free energy?
Heroin.
What about free energy? Because are you aware of free energy? Do you know what it is?
Sure.
And the Vatican is basically keeping hold of this scientific knowledge so that it doesn't get dispersed, so that people don't get
but let me
free
tell you
from
why.
oil.
Let me tell you why. The thing is that this problem started, as I said, with Giordano Bruno nearly 400 years, more than 400 years ago, and that problem was that certain physical but also metaphysical knowledge, scientific knowledge that could revolutionize humankind, could not be manifested on humankind without creating also a change in their belief system.
Right.
So
the Catholic Church would no longer be in power. The Illuminati would not be necessary, right? If you don't depend on them economically, you're not materially, you're not tied to them spiritually either, right?
The fact that they have control over certain things and that you are consuming those things is essential for this materialistic society that we have in place. This materialistic society is a reflection of the end of time scenario of the Kali Yuga, the last part of the Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga, this specific time frame described in the Hindu mythology, is a very dark period in which there is very little light, very few masters to be seen on the horizon. René Guénon himself, a very great initiate of Freemasonry, of the Illuminati, abandoned everything and became a sheikh and went to Cairo and became Muslim, alhamdulillah. Why? Because there was a reason. He had to save himself for what he had been involved. In fact, I invite everybody to read René Guénon, because even if he's a great traditionalist in a way, he was Catholic, but then he transformed himself for a reason. He saw what they were doing in the occult. He saw the corruption in the church and in all these groups that were surrounding the church. And for example, today, we have Gnostic churches that claim to have some apostolic succession going back to the time of Christ. They are all under the control of the Vatican.
Even the Gnostics.
all the Gnostics. I can give information, very detailed information about how the Vatican and the Jesuits keep an eye on all the Gnostic movements, on every wandering bishop. People like Stephen Heller, that I met personally, they're completely subject to the Vatican and to Freemasonry, being himself a 32-degree Freemason, Stephen Heller. And he represents one of the biggest Gnostic traditions these days in the United States. Bishop Heller, yeah, he does how it is. He's a very kind of Germanic character, yeah, but he wants himself, he's really typical Illuminati scum. If I have to say scum, it's scum, because these people are Nazis. Their approach is Nazi, but it's camouflaged in a way that they're always pro-Jewish. So they're no, but we support Israel. They can't be, but they are in reality Nazi, and Israel itself is acting as a Nazi because of them,
Right. So how does Zionism play into this? Because you're not talking about the Jewish people only. You're talking about Zionism as a religion, right?
I don't have anything against the Jewish people, because myself I have close relatives, even Jews. I don't have problem with the Jewish people. The Jewish people are actually chosen by God for a specific purpose. That's not the ultimate.
So how does Zionism play into the whole Illuminati story?
The religion of Abraham got corrupted during the course of time. Certain families got corrupted, and they also mingled with the Vatican for 2,000 years in Rome. They have been the most ancient Jewish community in Rome. In this picture, we're talking about the Jews, their great influence, their great power, and they really have great power. Even in the oligarch movement in Russia, they're very powerful. In this picture, we have here Senator Sergei Gurdjieff, famous Russian billionaire, senator, close friend of Vladimir Putin, and one of also my close friends for a time, because he was the representative of the Illuminati, of the Gruppo Diur in Moscow, and one of the senior intelligence operatives at all levels regarding the research of the Holy Grail and all that matters for the Russian government. He gave me a gift, which after I would like to show you, which is a mask brought from Tibet. Illuminati gift. The Illuminati likes to give this kind of gift, ancient artifacts, this kind of stuff. And this peculiar artifact was very interesting because it was given by the 13th Dalai Lama as a gift to Nikolai II, the Tsar of Russia, because their intention was to subject Nikolai II to the Illuminati control of Tibet. Because the Tibetan monks are the Illuminati of the East, and they are seen as the Illuminati of the East. This mask was given to me as a gift by Senator Sergei Gurdjieff, which I showed you before in the picture earlier on.
Yes.
Senator of the Russian Federation and famous Russian billionaire.
Right.
And kind of Indiana Jones of the situation. He likes to go and find this kind of thing. But actually this was given, if I don't get it wrong, to his uncle, who was at the time mediating for the conversion of Nikolai II to the 13th Dalai Lama. Unfortunately that didn't happen. We all know how things went then in Russia. But we managed to preserve this famous artifact, and to bring it out of Russia in 2002 was quite an adventure. I tell you, thanks God.
It's very powerful.
It's very powerful. One motivation, I asked Sergei, why are you giving me such a gift? I mean, it's a quite incredible gift of historical value. Obviously for him maybe, but it was very important. I think that the Russians really want to get rid of it. Because apparently it has, is connected to a very powerful entity. That it transports it with it, and it has the power of emanating, and the Russians basically want to get out of the borders.
I see. So did you purge it,
So, well, I myself obviously have to be very careful with it and with the use of it, but definitely it's under my close surveillance, and I have it, so that's it, I'm going to keep it.
Okay.
It's a very peculiar mask, very peculiar. The 14th Dalai Lama, the present Dalai Lama, used it when he has his own divinator who went into trance with this mask before the Chinese arrived and warn them to go away. So in a way save the life of the ram. But this tradition, as we were saying, is part of the Bon tradition, is the shamanic tradition of Tibet, which is more ancient than the Buddhist tradition. But it's said to be dominated by the Buddhists and by the red caps of Tibet.
In the middle we have a Jew, Lazarus. Lazarus is, his wife is the head of basically the customs in Russia, so you can't get in Russia without the wife of, she's the head of all customs operating especially in Moscow, and he himself, an oligarch, working for the oligarchs, is of Georgian origin, but he's a Jew, and he explained me how the Jews literally transformed themselves into the aristocracy of the communist establishment and managed to survive also the persecution of Stalin if they simply worked with the establishment in a certain way. Nowadays they're very strong. But for example, Senator Sergei officially objects the Zionist. But when this other guy here gave him a $900,000 watch in front of my eyes, he accepted it. And why, you say, why a senator from the Russian Federation should accept such a gift? Because corruption in Russia is made with watches. There is $1 million watches. Once I had 3 of them on my table, and they're used for corruption by the Illuminati so they can keep on their oligarchy and all their practices.
So,
without
but
being touched.
how does Zionism serve the Illuminati's interest? You're talking about their vision of Armageddon because it is written so in the Bible?
Absolutely. The Zionism, you see, is a corrupt branch of what is really the religion of Abraham. That was already corrupt for a long time and tried with Zionism, especially coming out of Ukraine, to gather power. But the Zionist families, like for example the Rothschilds, who have been so important for the implementation of Zionism, are themselves also working linked to the Vatican, because they are Knights of Malta. So you will say, how is possible? Zionism and the Vatican, it doesn't really fit in. One should oppose the other. While publicly it might seem so, in reality they are completely connected. And I think that John Paul II made this quite evident when he called them our oldest brothers and embraced with so much love the rabbi in Rome, which I repeat, Rome is the oldest Jewish community in the world, so connected to Rome you have also this, and they worked for the Vatican. I saw Mossad agents in Rome from the Sonnino family, which I used to work with, involved with La Banda della Maiana, which was this fearsome gang of people involved with the P2, with the intelligence service, killers that were doing all kinds of weapons, cocaine, heroin, all kinds of business with them. And they were receiving every year a letter from Andreotti, which is a senior Democrat Christian, very well known in the Atlantic Pact, in the NATO. Andreotti is one of the key people in Italy, also as a politician still nowadays. He has been Prime Minister for many times, and he was is a senior Opus Dei and P2 member. But working with these people, I saw the power of the Zionist establishment. For example, George Ugo Ballesteri wanted to do a Isaac Rabi award. And I said, why? But because under the influence of the Zionistic element that is always there, and they like to go in Jerusalem, they have a specific place under what is the Temple of Solomon. Still nowadays they do this practice. They have a high priestess of Melchizedek. Now this high priestess is not really a woman, is a man-woman. Is a priest. There used to be a man and a priest and a monk, I think, working for the Vatican. He's one of the biggest experts of the Bible. He's now called Michela Mercenaro. He had a sex change, approved by the Vatican. Now she is working in some kind of university officially. In reality, she's working also for the police in their investigations in the occult and occult murders, but she is the high priestess of Melchizedek of the Order of Zion, and celebrates these occult rituals in Jerusalem with the elite there, and her function is to be androgyne, because half man, half woman. Mm-hmm. She can have this Zionist element is working at times, it has been opposing the Vatican, but at the end has decided, especially after the Second World War, to merge, and it couldn't be otherwise, because after the Second World War the Vatican became an American club. Also the Freemasons didn't exist inside the Vatican as lodges, but after the Second World War they were granted 4 lodges, a whole Grand Lodge set up in the Vatican with their own different lodges, with an official charter coming from America, you know.
Okay.
So the thing is, there was obviously an embracing also from the Vatican of what they have always embraced, which has been to be themselves head of these aristocratic families, themselves also involved with the Zionist families. Why? Because they were the bankers, so they had to be somebody who had to sponsor other people. There was a bank, and the bank is a very important thing for the Vatican. In fact, the IOR, la finanza dello IOR, the finances of the IOR, are fundamental for the Vatican. And we go back to the disinformation of before, Segretum Omega. Why it's so important that people have to realize that the Vatican is hiding something, but what is actually the Vatican hiding? The Vatican is hiding books and important rituals of evocation.
What about the third secret of Fatima? Is the Vatican hiding this or no?
The thing is this: the Vatican constructs miracles for their own purpose, to establish a place where people go, spend money on hideous things like little crosses, make cash, a couple of holy waters, then so you have Lourdes, Fatima, then you have Padre Pio now.
So in other words, it's just a show to make money. There's no secret?
No,
there's no real secret?
No, there is secret that at times these people have been in contact with entities, okay? Or they have opened an interdimensional door with an entity that has come through and has revealed them certain secrets. For them, certain things, certain prophecies are very important, because at times, and that's why the Jesuits are in Mount Graham also with their astronomical observatory. They have to calculate exactly, because they want to avoid sometimes that the prophecy comes against them in any way. If the prophecy becomes enemy of their own project, then at that point that prophecy has to be scrapped off the map. The people that the prophecy can't come into being. Why? Because they are there making sure that that kid, if it's born that day, dies. Why? Because that kid will be an enemy of their order, and it's already for them. So there is been.
Who is the Black Pope?
Black Pope is the general of the Jesuits. As I said, his power is very strong, because the sieve, as we mentioned before, is just a small creation of what is the Jesuit intelligence apparatus, which is very important.
Okay, but who is he specifically? What's his name?
Adolf Nicholas is the Black Pope now, is known.
Okay, and is he going to be the Black Pope of Revelation?
No. Then you have the Black Pope of Revelation. That doesn't need to be. There is, you see, there is a confusion here. There is always an element of confusion. And why?
Certainly.
Because when you have two elements, then you usually choose the wrong one, and the right one gets left untouched. So everybody is focused, the Black Pope of Revelation is the Black Pope of the Jesuits. Me personally, which I know the Jesuits very well, as I have demonstrated, and as I know the Freemason very well, and the whole apparatus, I can tell you that the Black Pope is not the general, it is the general of the Jesuits, and it's very important, but he's not the one of Revelation, because the one of Revelation is black. He's from Nigeria. He's already a cardinal. He's already been put in the post that used to be of Ratzinger. He's already there, ready to become the next Pope.
And his name is?
I used to remember his name, but I'm sorry, this African name sometimes. But it's very easy to find.
What is his role in 2012? Is this the year of Revelation, 2012?
The important thing is that they reflect the prophecies, they make them happen for their own advantage. Now the Jesuits, with their own Black Pope, which is obviously the figure of the Jesuit general, which is very important. I never underestimate that figure, because it's a very important one, as sometimes powerful as the Pope, because they have been so important as an order, and because they have the esoteric knowledge, and they have the knowledge and access to those interdimensional doors. That's why how come, I mean, it's very natural. How comes a Jesuit is in an astronomical observatory in Mount Graham in Arizona, or is in the library in the Vatican? What is taking, if you can't check a book in the secret archive of the Vatican because they are there protecting it. At the same time, they are in charge of an observatory. This should make it very clear that when they deliberately spread through this guy Barbado, this information regarding the Secretum Omega and Planet X, we should at least question it, because
Okay, what is the purpose though? Barbado, we have just interviewed a journalist who has worked with